blessed with a championship prosperity the likes of which we have never seen, cursed by a past riddled with despair. This is Blursed.
Welcome to Blursed, everybody, the Atlanta sports podcast covering all the blessed and all the cursed of Atlanta sports. We are half-staffed this week, just me, Hayden, and Bleezy Blake. What's up, guys?
Wouldn't we be a
Guy,
third staff?
a third staff, half-staff.
Because there's three of us.
I think I consider myself I have to be here every time.
That's fair. That's fair.
I have so far, so
We're half staffed. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's
we're
fair.
at half-staff.
We're at what's up, man? It's a Sunday. We're recording on Sunday.
Yeah,
this
happy
week,
Easter.
so
Happy Easter.
that was last Sunday.
Oh, yeah, I'm not religious, so.
Oh, you're close. You're close. But yeah, happy Sunday. The Braves are up 4-2 right now as we're recording this in the bottom of the seventh.
Nice.
It's fun taking advantage of a bad team.
Trucking along. It was an easy week this week for the Braves, but yeah, it's gonna get a little bit tougher sledding here next week. But yeah, it's nice to see the guys hitting the ball again. Had a few tough series putting bat to ball, but they figured it out against the Royals.
Yeah, and pitching has also figured it out too, which is nice.
Yeah, can't fight that. But yeah, so it's been a little bit of up down week for all of Atlanta sports. Though United struggled a little bit at the tail end of their game, and then the Hawks.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a roller coaster of a week. I mean, for the Braves, they came in on the bottom going up all week, whereas the rest of the teams kind of had an up and down week. Saw a lot of good, saw a lot of bad. I would say the Falcons are going up on that roller coaster too, which is the cool part in the offseason.
You know what? You just adjusted your shirt, which says Arizona, if you're listening. So I think you have to explain yourself for our viewers.
I lived in Phoenix for a year, so I went to Goodwill and I saw this for like $2, so I bought it. It's got, you know what I mean? I'm a sports guy. You gotta represent the sports in the town where you're at. I don't root for the Cardinals ever, but it's a comfortable shirt.
Looks good. It's a nice looking shirt. You pull off
Yeah,
the
man.
You had just left the shirt, like not adjusted it, then it would have just looked like a UGA shirt. Oh yeah, I forgot. G Day also was this past weekend.
Yeah, what did you think, man? We could just talk about that now, actually. Just
okay. Let's fuck it.
How about them dogs?
I mean, there's a lot of takeaways, but like the main one is there's not a quarterback battle at all, in my opinion. It is very obvious who the best quarterback is, and it's Carson Beck. The way the ball comes out of that guy's hands is a thing of beauty, and like it looks professional quality. And you can tell if you compare him up against other professional quarterbacks, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you can almost hear the sound of the ball coming out of his hands, just like that.
Like throwing darts.
It's like, yeah, really. I mean, it's on target, and I think it was probably the first team offense versus second team defense, and vice versa. But yeah, he had Brock Bowers to throw to. It felt like he had all the best guys.
All the weapons.
Yeah, but the way he was fitting the ball in, the way he was reading the patterns and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the main takeaway for me. I thought it would be more of a battle leading into next season, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
For sure. I mean, Carson Beck did have all the backup reps all last year, and he played a lot for a backup not because of injury, but because of just how good we were. And I think something though that, like you said, is a little surprising is that even when we've had more, I feel like determined quarterback battles in camp so far with Georgia, it's been more of a battle at spring, where like for you to say is like pretty decisive.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think,
but I agree with that.
Going into every year besides this past season with Stetson returning.
For Stetson, exactly. Stetson was
his last season after winning a championship. Like, that's the only time in Kirby Smart's tenure that we've had a decided starter.
Do you remember sorry.
No,
I was saying, do you remember when people were saying last year that Carson should start over Stetson? Like Stetson shouldn't be the starter. Like that was a conversation last spring after we won the national championship.
That's a little ridiculous, but I don't really know what to say to that. Like, you're going to let him play it out at that point. You have a championship winning quarterback. and they're
I mean, I'll be
still
honest. I
right.
was one of those people for like 1 second after they won national championship. Was like, well, Stetson should probably just go on and like retire in the sunset because this is the peak he could get to. I mean, I didn't know he'd be a Heisman finalist into another national championship after that. So, I mean, shame on me for even suggesting that for a second. But
now he's just a legend in all
yeah,
of
right.
college football for winning back-to-back national championships. But yeah, so I mean, I guess I would be really surprised if either Gunnar Stockton or Brock Vandagriff actually competed for the job unless there's an injury to Carson Beck. So that's kind of where I stand after the G-Day. Other guys that stuck out to me, you got your usual suspects in Brock Bowers. Ladd had a nice catch.
Was it Branson Robinson? Who was running back that played well?
There's a couple Robinsons that played well. Branson played well. Roderick Robinson, he's a freshman. So I don't know if he's going to get a red shirt or not. There's a lot of running back depth, as always, at UGA. But he also looked good, and he's like a really big physical guy. It.
Milton's playing again, right? Kendall Milton?
Yeah. I don't know if I can't remember if I saw him any snaps.
Won't matter if he did. Yeah. I mean, we know he's going to play.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Edwards. Like, I saw him get a couple snaps, but I think it's more for the guys that probably don't play all season long and seeing like where they're going to land. Who was the other one? Cash Jones was pretty good. He's like
I like that name.
Fifth string running back or so. But yeah, love it. The receiver that transferred from Missouri.
Yeah.
He looked good. It looks like he's going to be like a playmaker for us, which is exciting. Like to actually have that tier of wide receiver. No disrespect to Ladd, but his role is a slot receiver.
Well, it's like George Pickens, what he could have been if he was healthy for us, like during a whole season.
Right, exactly. So it's nice to see that. Oscar Delp got a little bit of play too. We just load up at the tight end position.
I know Kai's isn't here, but he did mention that Bear Alexander was entering the transfer portal, which I thought was really surprising because Bear played really well for us a lot last year.
Yeah, so that was announced on Saturday morning before G-Day. So I don't know if something happened and like Bear didn't get the snaps or he's not like projected to be a starter anymore. Or he didn't like the way things were going, but it's a little bit late in the timing of a transfer. Usually you see that right after the season, so you have time to transfer in the spring, then you get acclimated to your new school, and then you get to play in the spring game. So a little bit of a late transfer there, which is a little surprising. I hate that. I like the guy.
I do too. I like
good name, great name for a defensive tackle. Really
strong.
Yeah,
too strong. I have a question about like the transfer portal. I don't know if you saw this recently, but Steve Sarkisian with Texas, he announced recently that any player that enters the transfer portal for them are no longer on the team. Like if you enter the transfer portal while you're there, like even if you don't land anywhere else, your scholarship's been taken away from you.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so I'm wondering what you think about that, and you think other colleges will start doing that.
I didn't realize. I just assumed that's how it was. I didn't know that there.
Some let you enter it and then stay if you don't find anything better like that.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of like the approach there from Sark. You add a little bit of urgency to that decision and like heighten it, so that way you're not just transferring like on a whim.
Right.
But
if you make that decision, you're gone. Like that's it. So
yeah, I mean, most of these guys at D1 schools, they should definitely be able to find it somewhere else to play, like without too much issue.
And he wasn't saying anything that was crazy either. Like he said, well, look, we're going to talk to these guys before they decide to do that, before they decide to stay, like, and try to make sure we have what's best interest for them. So it wasn't like oh, you're dead to me. It was more like once they've done that, now they've made a decision that, look, you're just not here anymore. And it's a mutual understanding.
Yeah. And like, I mean, it's fine either way too. Like everybody has to make the decision that's best for them. But yeah, it's interesting that he's taking that approach. I have no problem with it because there's other walk-ons on the team that may have earned a scholarship too, and he probably wants to move that along to people that are going to be
there
at the program. So that's interesting.
Thing, did you? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say a couple other names. I forget what his first name is, but his last name is Mews, Mews, I believe. But he returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Then he nearly took a punt back for a touchdown, and he has like a really weird gait to his run. Like he almost looks like he's galloping, and it doesn't look like he's going super fast, but he's just
But
pulling
he's
away
faster
from
than everybody.
guys. Yeah. And so,
I swear that's Cordell Patterson. Like Cordell Patterson to me doesn't look fast, but he just pulls away from people in
it's
the NFL.
Incredible.
So.
I don't know if people have different running techniques, but yeah, it's interesting when you see somebody like that, and then you see guys like Tyreek Hill. It's just like, oh, that guy's legs are moving incredibly fast, so that makes sense to me. But yeah, so I think those were the highlights that I had. I mean,
I had one more highlight for the spring game weekend, and it had nothing to do with UGA. It was actually looking at one of our rivals at Florida. They played their spring game on Thursday night, and the final score was 10-7. And neither of their quarterbacks played well at all. They had a transfer in from Wisconsin, and then their Vegas Bowl starter Jack Miller, who they got embarrassed in the Vegas Bowl if you don't remember. Like I think they only scored 3 points or 7. They both were awful, and their coach Napier said after the game that they're looking to the transfer portal for a quarterback.
Oh boy, dude,
Gators are just in a bad spot altogether.
Man, how far have they fallen in 15 years? It's incredible.
I mean, that's the Urban Meyer effect, man. I mean, Ohio State hasn't had that same downfall, but Ohio State had more consistent. Like Ohio State was already a consistent winner before Urban got there, but.
Yeah.
But everywhere he's left, they've kind of gone downhill for a while before they came back. Like Utah just now got back into the national light again when it comes to football. And it's been 10, 15 years since he was there, or 20 years. I don't even know now.
Just like, I don't know. It feels weird that like with the level of recruiting and stuff, I guess they just have never gotten a coach back of that quality that can maintain a program like that.
So. It's hard too when you've seen other SEC teams like Georgia. Like Georgia, I mean, I think Nick Saban said it a while ago before Kirby got there, but he said Georgia's a sleeping giant. Like he's the one who said if the right coach gets there, the rest of the SEC is in trouble. And then Kirby got there. And now you see why he said that. I mean, Georgia has one of the best states for football talent, and now Georgia's actually recruiting their own best players. So
we're able to keep players in house and then find people from all over the country too that want to come to play in Athens because it's a great college town. I mean, it is, and who wouldn't want to play for the best coach and the best team,
the best team in the country right now.
Great town to be in. So yeah, all those factors together lead to sustained success, and we're lucky that Kirby is a UGA grad, so he's not really. This is his dream job, I would imagine.
Right.
So,
I don't think he's going to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
like, why would you? He's set. He's good where he is.
I mean, that's the exciting thing. It has to be the part that pisses off every other fan base in the SEC right now. I was like, that guy's not going anywhere. Like he is like, there's nowhere else. Same when like Nick Saban were Alabama. Like there's nowhere else Nick Saban's going to go. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, we're definitely fortunate in that way.
Feels good.
I guess I'll tack on for the G-Day game. I thought the offense looked good, looked well called. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem like there was much changeover from Bobo taking over, which is good. They're continuing with the same program, probably like not much changes there. So good to have continuity, even though there's a coaching change.
Yeah, I mean, all the players have said that they already liked Mike Bobo. It was great having him in there for a year before him taking over so they could get acquainted with him. He's a really likable guy, which we already knew that from his last time being with UGA. So, and I think Mike Bobo is in that same page. Like, I don't think Mike Bobo wants another job after. Like, I think this is where he wants to be. So if this works out, this could be like the perfect match made in heaven.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age, and so like you probably want to get a little bit more settled and be somewhere, but you never know with these coaches. They jump around all over the place. But
I think it's more health for him. Like he's only 50.
Oh, really?
Like around that. Yeah, it's just more of he's had health issues.
Well, before we get into Blursed of the Week, if you don't love all Atlanta sports or UGA, check out our show notes. It has a timestamp for all of our different segments, so you can jump around. That's on the podcast or on YouTube, so you can jump around. And then, let's go to Blursed of the Week.
Blursed of the Week.
Man. I'm actually going to do my Blursed of the Week is like, I feel like it's a bless, but it could lead to a curse because for some fans, it might be just total blessed. The Falcons this week traded for Jeff Okudah and we signed Bud Dupree. these are two, I think, great moves. Like you have low risk, high rewards, and we'll talk more about the low risk, high rewards in the Falcon segment. But the reason I think it's Blursed is because they're such great moves at two key positions where you thought you might go in the first round. I will argue in the Falcon segment that we could still go those positions, but it leaves the door open for us to go literally almost any position now in round one. And that includes taking old Bijan 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. So yeah, so it could happen now. And I don't know if it'd be like a at 8 or a trade back situation. And I promise you, it's still probably not even the top choice for our team to do, but it's definitely an option now. And it's an option that kind of makes more sense now than it ever did before.
It still doesn't make sense.
I mean, that's fair, but it kind of does.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying it could now. Like it really could, and it would be one of those where you can't be like, wait, what about these other positions? Because they've addressed the other positions. So
that's true. Yeah, it takes
you can't be as mad about it, right? Where you're like,
it takes some stress off of that call. But
yes,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For my Blursed of the week, I'm gonna stick to my brand, the Braves, and say Orlando Arcia's injury. He got hit on the wrist with a 98-mile-per-hour fastball on Wednesday, and originally he stayed in the game, and then it started swelling up on him, and it seemed like it was okay, and then the next morning it turns out he has a microfracture in his wrist, which I guess, I don't know. It's not like
only 10-day IL, so
not a full break, but in light of that, Vaughn Grissom was elevated. So we get a look at the kid again and see what he's got. We saw a little bit of him on Friday and Saturday in Kansas City, and so it's a little rocky, a little up and down, but get those nerves out a little bit.
Yeah, I think overall for this move, it could be one of those super blurs in the sense that like, oh, it stinks. RC has been playing really well. We want him to stay up here, and would like Vaughn to have more practice in the field. But the ultimate blessed side of this could be Vaughn's bat stays so hot that they have to keep him up, and then they have to designate Ozuna, and Arcia comes back and takes shortstop, and then Grissom plays DH and spot in the field.
This lineup would be so freaking good.
Dude, Grissom's bat slaps, dude. If he could just, I hope he stays hot long enough because Ozuna's been, I mean, garbage, like literally garbage. He's worse than Dane Ugla. He's a worse hitter than Dane Ugla. Like, remember that year when Dane Ugla couldn't hit the broadside of the barn until he hit that 37-game hit streak or whatever it was?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but worse. Like, at least Dane Ugla had like a 137 average or something. I do have a breaking news alert while we're talking about the Royals actually tied it up in the bottom of the 7th, 4-4. However, Acuna doubled and stole third and is now 90 feet from home. And he's gotten his 7th. This is a cool stat. He's gotten a 7th steal of the year in 15 games. In 2019, when he stole 37 bases, he got his 7th in 57 games. He's on pace for like 70 steals this year or 8. Like I told you, I even said that before the season. Like, could we see a 60, 70 steal season again? I think we will. I don't know if it'll be Acuna, but the new rules really set us up for potential of that 60, 70, 80 steal season.
Yeah, he's taking advantage of the new rules, and he's feeling good. It's good to see him at full health.
So. Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. It's good to have him back.
All right. So before we get into the Braves, if you like our content, give us a follow or subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Speaking of, a special shout out to our new subs this week: Melodic Egghead, Tasha Star 336, Aaron Anderson, and Dylan Freeman, our guy out there in Texas. If your YouTube account is set to private, then I can't really see who you are. So give us a comment on the video if you want us to give you a shout out next week. If you like the cut of our jib, leave us a 5-star review or give us a like on YouTube. Join our new Discord community at discord.io/blursports to chat with us directly and get into the conversation. Finally, you can follow us on whatever social media you have at Blursports on Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Insta, and soon to be Facebook.
Fabo. I keep cutting in when you're trying to do your little spiel, and I'm sorry. I'll learn it. I'll get it eventually and get my timing right. But I was going to say our Freeman's actually back in Georgia, so welcome back. Back in the A. Yeah, back in the A.
Back,
I'm pretty sure
back
went to
where
a
he
Braves game recently.
belongs.
So yes, so welcome back, sir.
Shout out Dill.
Dill Pickle.
All right.
Shout out. Also, Sean Murphy struck out 3 outs, so we go to the bottom of the 8th, tied 4-4.
Braves.
Speaking of the Braves, it's been a good week. Not just the current game going on. We're looking to get a sweep of the Royals, but we also swept the Reds earlier this week. So 2 teams that aren't great, but you still have to win the games that you're supposed to win as well.
Absolutely.
So Kai's was chirping us a little bit earlier this week on Discord about the Braves just barely beating the Reds earlier this week each game, which that's not really how baseball works. So
he knows that. He's just trying to troll.
There's so many games in baseball, and it's kind of like as long as you win, you win. In a 4-game series, the worst team in baseball is still going to beat the best team in baseball one time on average.
Yeah,
that's just the way the sport goes. And
what about 3-game series?
I would say like you have a 25% chance. So like
win one, yeah.
But that's like how lucky hits happen. Different elements. Each stadium is different. Like there's a lot of different variables that other sports don't have.
I think too, if you like the Mets last year, like that, I don't remember what the stat was. Remember that lucky hit stat that they had where like they just were south contact getting hits? Like that stuff happens in baseball in weird ways that can't be explained. But at the end of the day, like a win is a win.
Yeah. Yeah. That's BABIP, batting average, balls in play. So they just have like really lucky hits that are just falling in, and that's not going to happen all the time. You can try to put an emphasis on making contact more and not like going for power as much, but there's give and take there.
Because you could argue that a ball in play gives you a better chance of getting on base than a ball that's not in play. So like, I could see both.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the discussion in analytics of like slugging percentage versus on base or like contact.
Did you see the Rays go on that? I think they won 13 straight, their first 13 games.
Yeah, they lost on Friday. The Rays won 13 straight to start the season, which tied a record with I think like the 82 Braves and like the 87 Brewers or something like that. But yeah, it's only happened.
They've lost
2
straight since then.
Yeah, I mean it's bound to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll go on a run of losses here as well, and it'll balance out, I'm sure. But yeah, that would be discouraging to be like the Yankees or like the Orioles are supposed to be good this year, or the Red Sox. Like it would suck to see that.
The Rays are the modern. I don't know if we said it on the podcast last time, but they're the modern day Moneyball. Like that's what they are. They do the best job at making the most bang for your buck without like they're never trying not to win. Like they always are trying to win. They're just not spending as much money as these bigger markets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to, like 10 years down the line, there'll be a book that comes out or something about like what they've been able to do. They have not been able to win the World Series, unfortunately.
They've been close.
They're an underdog, so like obviously I want the Braves to win, but like if it's
they're
not the
fun
Braves,
team to root for. Yeah,
that'd be a team I would love to see win it, just because they are an underdog and they don't spend as much money as these other teams.
That's my father-in-law's favorite team, and I texted him about it. He goes, "Well, our best beginning was 5-0, so like this is incredible." Like he's thrilled right now. He's losing it. And then the Braves being 11-4, we're actually the second best team in baseball record-wise right now.
Yeah, first in the National League. So hopefully we can pull out this game against the Royals today. And so jumping back to that Cincinnati series, they were close games, but we had really clutch hits too. One of which being Sean Murphy has officially arrived after Travis d'Arnaud goes down to a concussion. He is really hitting the ball now, and it's carried through the rest of this weekend series against the Royals too. He had a walk-off home run in the 10th against the Reds on Wednesday, off day on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday he has like 7 RBIs throughout the series so far. He has a home run, multiple doubles. He's just really seeing the ball well right now. Every time he touches his bat is jumping.
That trade looks better every day. Like seriously, and that's the only move we really made this last offseason, and it looks better every single day.
Yeah, I mean it's important to have catching depth. It's a position that you're going to deal with more injuries than others. But yeah, we improved defensively there. We increased our depth, and it seems as though he has a better bat than old Wild Bill Contreras. And that's what his main skill is, and I think we'll probably see him eventually be mostly a DH for the Brewers at some point in his career.
Oh, for sure.
But
I have him in fantasy right now, so I'm hoping for that.
It's awesome to see. I'm glad he's getting an opportunity now. It's unfortunate it's because d'Arnaud's out, but people were complaining earlier in the season about how Sean Murphy wasn't producing at all yet at the plate, but it's largely because he was getting inconsistent play because he was switching off every day at catcher with d'Arnaud, and then he wasn't DHing at all. It was Ozuna every time. And
Which he should get more DH stints now, but both catchers should.
Yes, 100%. Whenever d'Arnaud gets back, it'll be a back and forth between those two, or it should be. Or, some of these other guys that are playing more often now because of injuries to Michael Harris, like Sam Hilliard is playing super well.
Oh, he's playing well, man.
He's playing great defense, and he's hitting the ball well. Even Eddie Rosario, he's getting more play at DH2 against righties since he's a lefty bat. And then he's playing in left field as well. So, these guys are getting more at-bats, and we just have a deep team, man. We really do. Eli White got called up, too, and he's gotten some play. He hasn't done a ton yet, and then Kevin Pillar, too. He's just the veteran presence in the
veteran
outfield.
Presence, yeah.
And, he's not used to not playing, but he's made some really awesome plays out in left field, too. So, it's awesome that we have this much depth. And
we have a ton of depth.
We have been extremely injured throughout the first couple weeks of the season, just these little nagging injuries, but we persist. We're winning games. We're winning close games. And then the Royals series comes up, and we're scoring 3 or 4 runs every first inning of the game, or within the first 3 innings, we're putting up 5 runs. It's just incredible. And then today, in the 3rd inning, we put up 3 runs.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is I feel like, one, it can be disheartening to the other team when you go up that much, that early. And we've been doing that consistently. And then not to mention our bullpen and our rotation has been the best in baseball when you're away this season. So obviously when we're not playing the Padres, we've just dominated everybody else we played. So,
and that's without Max Fried, our best pitcher.
Yeah. And today Kyle Wright was his first game, and he pitched really well, right?
Second game. So he started last Tuesday, and he only lasted 3 innings. So it wasn't great. But look, he's settling in. He looked really good today. He had a little bit of trouble there in the 3rd inning, walked a couple of guys, but he figured it out, and you can just tell he's finding it again and getting settled in for the long season.
I have a question for your hypothetical trade here. What if we're getting near the trade deadline? And I feel like this kind of makes sense because there's Grissom and Shoemake. They can't both come to the majors. It just won't. I don't think it'll ever work out where they both could be on the team.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really make sense.
Could you see packaging a Shoemake with Ozuna to get Ozuna out of here for a relief pitcher or something?
I don't know if a team would take that. I don't think Shoemake's a big enough prospect to get Ozuna off our books.
Darn.
We would have to be sending considerable cash as well.
Right.
to
or
cover that.
Moving one of these young pitchers with them or something too.
Yeah. Something like that, which I wouldn't mind that either. Speaking of the young pitchers, Bryce Elder has been an anomaly since he's come up too.
The old Elder Scrolls.
He had a 7 ERA in spring, and then since he's been up, he's been fantastic. They've said he's thrown his breaking stuff a lot more than he had in the past, and maybe that's just thrown the hitters off just a fraction of a second. That's all you need. But he's looked good, and he's not walking a ton of guys. So, he's making a case for him to stay up.
Soroka's look good in the minor leagues.
So, man, I really feel like the 5th spot is Soroka's.
I hope
once
so,
he gets himself to full strength. So his last start, he looked really good. He got up to 60 pitches. So they're trying to work him up basically 10 to 15 extra pitches per game. So they want to get him up to 85, 90, and then really get him his stamina ready, and then see if his stuff is going to work
for the major leagues.
But from what I've seen, he has the same arm. That was never the issue. It's the Achilles and his legs. So as long as he's able to field the position, his arm looks live still, and he's got the movement, he's got the rotation on the ball that he needs. I definitely think he could be up at some point this season.
Oh, let's go! Vaughn Grissom singles on a ground ball to the right fielder. Ozzie Albies had doubled right before that, and he scored from second. So 5-4 Braves.
Man, the lineup is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous, especially when Ozuna's not in.
Not in it, yeah, dude. Bob Grissom was 0 for 3 today, and he banged home a single. Just a good bat. He was up in the count, and they gave him something to swing at on 2-0.
And that's not, Vaughn actually had put a couple extra balls in play today too. That he had hit well just right at people. So it's just incredible, this lineup. The top three obviously are going to be like probably all-stars. Acuna is hitting like basically 400.
Acuna, Olsen, and Riley could all be MVP candidates like at the end of this year.
I mean, it's pretty incredible, especially as much as Ronnie is stealing bases too, but and throwing guys out in right field, left and right.
Absolutely.
He's just constantly on base, which is awesome. And then, Matt Olson and Austin Riley went back-to-back on Friday night. And if you guys didn't watch that game, holy crap. If you have it recorded, go take a watch because it was an incredible Friday night game. I just happened to be in. One of my dogs had surgery. She's good. But we were just like taking an easy night, making sure she's good. And then
let's watch the game.
We were just like, let's throw on the game, see what happens. We watched it from the very beginning, and oh my God. It's like right off the bat, we were scoring runs. And then,
firework after firework. Yeah.
And then like Snit got ejected in like the second or third inning too, which was, I love seeing ejections. I love seeing the manager get out there and argue. You don't see it as much anymore because there's a rule change a couple of years ago, like where if manager argues at all, they just get tossed immediately. So
right,
you see a decrease. So I don't think Snit's ever going to match Bobby Cox's career number. He got tossed like 176 times over the course of his career managing the Braves, which is incredible.
Dude, it was awesome watching Bobby go out there and just like pointing his finger and.
Oh man, I can't imagine the umpires were too intimidated of that like chubby old guy. But I mean,
exactly.
I don't know. He had a little intimidating factor to him. He's just like,
he had some heat to him. Yeah.
But I did want to talk about that ejection a little bit. So if you didn't see the call, it was a hit by Matt Olson. He hit it the opposite way. It bounced off the wall in left field, like right on the line. It hit the wall like where the foul line is, which means it's a fair ball.
Right.
Initially, the umpire called it foul, and it was an obvious double. Acuna was on first base. He definitely would have scored. And then, so we told them to review the call, and they did, and they said it was fair, which is correct. And then they said that Matt Olson was awarded first base and Acuna was awarded second base. That's where Snit got pissed because they cost us a run and they cost us another runner in scoring position. So that's like where I'm prompting the question: is there a sport with worse common sense rules than Major League Baseball? And I didn't give Blake time to prep for this, so I'll give him a second to think. But it's infuriating to me because if there's a ball that hits the wall in the air and it bounces back into play, like I would say 9 times out of 10 that is a double. The only exception is probably like in Boston. If you like line one off the monster, then that's going to be a single.
I guess the thought process is like not everyone's as fast as Acuna, so maybe not everyone can make that run. I know what you're saying, that it should be a double regardless, but my only like qualm, like where it's like the worst, I don't know. I just feel like there's some horrible calls you see in like the NFL when it comes to passing interference, roughing the passer. Like
I'd agree that NFL is the other one that comes to mind.
And I think
they just can't figure it out.
I think for me, baseball has the least egregious of ones because you don't typically see a ref like cause a loss. Like the only times you ever see it are like the bad strike zones. Like that's the worst thing that can happen in baseball. And I think they're working their way to get rid of umps almost in that category. Like,
man, like I'm really excited for that too because they've tested this. I don't know if it's in the minor leagues yet, but they did it in the winter leagues this year of like a batter or a pitcher can contest a strike or ball.
Challenge it.
Yeah, they can challenge it. Like, and then it's immediate. Like it shows on the scoreboard. Like, oh, that was a strike. And then like I don't know. I guess I enjoy that. It's a little
I like it
bionic,
too.
I guess.
Well, it also causes these umps and these refs, like in all sports, to do better and just do your job a little better. Like.
Yeah,
because no one likes watching the referees throw or cause a game to have a certain outcome. It's the worst thing in sports.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes, but it's nice to see at least MLB moving in the right direction with these rule changes, which I've really enjoyed all of them. The pace of play is great. You're not just watching these guys walk around for 10
Do you see all
minutes.
people whining on Twitter about it, saying like, "Well, I used to love to come to the baseball game and like no, it was like you didn't know what time it was going to end," and it's like, shut up, like that's like the worst
I
part
can't tell
about
you how
it.
many times I've left games early, like in the 8th or 9th inning, because they were going on so long. You just
Especially
can't.
during the week. There's
Yeah,
so many weekday baseball games, like on a school night or a work night. No one wants to stay at a baseball game till 11 p.m. No
yeah.
one.
And there's also the issue of like cutting into profit with concessions, and so you're seeing teams now that are So it used to be a 7th inning deadline
That's
for
eighth.
beer and alcohol sales. Now, like the Brewers have moved it back to the 8th. But then that causes like more of a social issue of like, so you're not allocating time for these people to sober up
Right.
at
It's like
all before
22
they drive.
minutes is what you're, yeah.
Yeah, and the innings are shorter now too. So really, maybe you should have moved it in the other direction if
It's
you
the
were
sixth
concerned
inning.
about fan
Yep.
safety.
It's nothing to do with fan safety
So
though.
yeah, there's a gray area there, and these owners are going to find a way to make their money back for sure.
Oh, AJ Minter came into the ninth to close the game.
Do we have the
So
lead?
we do 5-4. That's what I'm saying. That
Okay.
single in the last got us the lead by Von Grissom.
And I got to bring up Ozzy as well. He struggled here to start the season, but this past series he's looked really good. He had a home run today, and
And a
he seems
double
in
today
a
as
double.
well.
So it's good to see him being a little bit more patient at the plate because he can get a little bit out of himself in that regard at
Yeah.
times.
He's never someone I worry about either in like a slump because like he's one of those that I feel like just has those perfect timing at bats where like when you need him to get the hit, he gets the hit. I don't know.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Like timely at bats is what I'd say. Like he's just a timely hitter.
yeah. You could he's got the keep swinging approach for sure. So
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like anything really gets in his head. He's a good leader, and he's gonna figure it out at some point. And
Should we talk
hopefully,
about our swan song?
oh, what about him?
Well, just what he said. We haven't
Oh,
talked about him.
Dansby. Do you have a quote
Yeah.
pulled up?
No, I just his latest thing was he was talking about how magical April is in Wrigley Field and he doesn't feel anything like it before. And it's like, come on, man. Like
Yeah, I
October and True has had to be magical when you won a World Series. Like I don't mind him loving Chicago. Like you should be happy where you're at, but you can do it without constantly shitting on where you're from. Like that's just my thought process
yeah,
behind it.
I think he has issues. I don't think he's the smartest guy in the world, and I think that's the only way he knows how to speak to the media is in like these ultimate scenarios or like min max. So like, this is the best thing I've ever done. This is the best experience I've ever had. Blah
Well,
blah
it's
blah.
like he
That's
took it
all he
personal
knows.
too that we didn't
I mean,
offer him
could
the
be.
20s.
But I don't know, man. It's so easy to run comps of these different shortstops with their ages and well, every position. You can see easy comps all across the league. So I don't know, maybe have a little of awareness. Like, I'm not blaming you for taking the most money. I would do the same fucking thing. But
Right.
like,
But
I think I would come to terms with, oh, you know what? I'm not as good as those guys, and that's okay. But like, that's why I'm
or
not going to get paid as
that's the
much.
way the Braves have built their roster consistently. They're obviously made a point not to go over a certain amount of money. They're not going to do it for me either,
Yeah.
especially when there's better players on that team that just signed contracts that are better than me.
I mean, the
Like
output that we've had from shortstop this year too. Dansby is off to a great start with the Cubs. Don't get me
he's
wrong.
he's cooling down though. His last 7 games, he's batting 240.
Yeah.
He
So
went, yeah. He's had a
as Dansby does, like he's a very streaky hitter. He just got off to a hot start this
yeah. He's
season.
0-for-9 this weekend right now.
Yeah, but like the production that we've got out of Arcia, who is essentially a utility infielder that we extended on a utility infielder contract, which is
Yeah, it's been incredible.
incredible. And then Vaughn, who he was a little bit up and down. Friday night was his first start at shortstop. He did boot one. He had another throw. It was on Bobby Witt Jr. So if you don't know him, this is his second year in the league. And this is one reason that it's awesome that we're doing the balanced schedule in baseball now, because like we're seeing every team throughout the year now, which is awesome.
So we can start to see all the good players
instead of just like the Mets for the 4th or 5th series or whatever we play.
Right.
But anyways, that guy is blazing fast. Vaughn kind of double pumped. He like clutched one time and then he was at first base already. So that was the infield hit. And then there was another one that there was an error charged to Charlie Morton, which I think it should have been. It was just kind of a weird play, but it felt like he was like a little nervous. Luckily, we were way ahead in the game and we kind of had a buffer that he could get acclimated to the major league level at shortstop.
Right. Yeah, and that's honestly some of the perfect timing of the season so far. The fact that we've had that buffer, and also Braves won 5-4. Minter struck out Bobby Witt Jr. to win the game. So
6 straight, boys.
Bring out your brooms.
There you
6
go.
straight. That's 2 sweeps.
12-4. We're on pace for what is it?
158
wins, I think.
I think it's 120 or 119.
No,
it was 119 after yesterday's game.
Yes, I just meant if we don't ever lose.
Oh, I know you meant we won. Yeah, if we won every single game after this. Yeah,
because the Braves never.
I was actually in the shower the other day doing the math splits on what our win percentage was right now, and I was like, man, we're on pace to win like 115, 120 games. I was just trying to like do it in my head, and I was like, wow, like I don't know what the most wins. What is the most wins the team's had in a season?
We're gonna have to Google that one. I don't know. I mean, what did the Dodgers? I think the Dodgers won 110 last year.
I had to be a Yankee. The 2001 and the 1906 Chicago Cubs and 2001 Mariners had the most wins with 116.
Yeah. I mean, that's not super important. Like, I think it's important
that's pretty cool though.
Get out to a lead this season, which we've done, and we're playing well early in the year. Really, we find our stride usually midsummer. So this is kind of like icing on the cake at this point. Hopefully we can kind of cruise. The Phillies are looking quite bad. They're like 5-10.
Yeah, the Mets are starting to turn around.
Yeah, they're like 9-6. So looks like it'll be the two of us early on at least, and we'll see if somebody else comes on. But yeah, we do have a tougher week ahead. So it's good that we wrapped up this sweep of the Royals too. We are headed to San Diego, who obviously we know we just played them, and they're a very good team. Luckily, we still miss Fernando Tatis Jr., who's not reinstated until after that series. So that's kind of nice. And then we're coming back home to face the Astros. So they are consistently one of the best teams in baseball and defending champions. So it'll be a good litmus test for where we are and kind of how we're shaping up against some of the best teams.
Speaking of the Astros, our old friend Evan Gattis was on a
bender.
He had a bender. Do you hear about this? He was on a bender recently and had an interview talking about the Astros team that won. I guess it was the one that won the championship, right? And that he just talked about. Yeah, he talked about all the time they were using the trash cans to like know what pitches were coming. The only pitcher they didn't know was Yu Darvish because he had so many pitches he could throw. But everyone else, they knew exactly what pitch, especially like that home run he hit in one of the first games. And so I don't know. It's sad. And I think is pitch comm supposed to help prevent that too, like prevent them from knowing what pitches are coming.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really thought that deeply about it, but yeah, I mean, because unless you're like intercepting radio transmission, like I don't know.
That'd be the only way too. And God, if teams are doing that, holy crap.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the only way you would know, really. So yeah, that's definitely a perk of that program as well. But yeah, and so what he was saying too, there's been information that came out about like the Dodgers were cheating that year too, and like apparently a bunch of teams were cheating.
Yeah.
I think Gattis even said like he was on like performance enhancing drugs and stuff like that. So who knows what these guys get away with? Honestly, I don't get that upset about that anymore. I don't like these guys that get caught for cheating and steroids or performance enhancing drugs. They shouldn't be the cover athletes. That's why I get annoyed with all these people that are like hyping up Fernando Tatis' comeback this year. And like it's everywhere. It's like, oh, he's hit 6 home runs in his last 12 at bats in AAA. It's like, why are we like promoting this guy so much when he's a noted cheater? He's also a moron because he keeps getting hurt from like riding a motorcycle and stupid shit like that. But I don't know. I was getting frustrated. I like John Boy media a lot, and they keep hyping him up, and I'm annoyed by it. So,
well, it's like the annoying part too is people like Riley and the Freddie Freemans like don't get as much hype as they probably deserve. Like Freddie Freeman throughout his career, especially being a Brave, probably didn't get near as much hype as he deserved the whole time he was here. And he's just a stand-up guy who wouldn't do anything wrong.
Man, that's what sucks about like Atlanta is such like a mid-market area for sports, I guess.
And it shouldn't be either.
It shouldn't be because like that's how much people care about sports in the South. But yeah, you see that across all Atlanta sports. So you see it with Trey right now because like he's constantly overlooked by like Ja Morant,
Ja Morant,
and then Luka Luka, that one's more of a conversation. He just went off the deep end here at the end of the year,
and still gets celebrated. Still going to be an NBA All-Team.
I was seeing posts about him today. I was like, why are people hyping this guy up still? He's a piece of shit. And
yeah,
I don't
get it, man.
And Trey's like a good dude, and he's like a really good player that is overlooked. Anyways, that's my rant on Atlanta.
No, but it happens everywhere for Atlanta. Yeah, it's 100% true.
All right. Well, that's it for the Bravos for now, unless you got something else.
No, we're good. Let's move over to United just so I can do a little teaser. So
United.
5 stripes. Just if you watch the game, they tied 2-2. This is a game that felt like a loss though, because Toronto scored in the last 4. They scored in stoppage time. So in the 94th minute, they scored the tying goal. So it was a little bit of revenge for earlier this season when we did the same thing to another team. But overall, I like to say that it's been awesome to see consistent play out of our team. Like it's something that you're ready for the letdown. If it was going to be like last year, it hasn't happened yet. You would hope for a win here, but it will take a tie and it keeps you on top of the keeps you where you're at in the standings. And honestly, the last couple of years, kind of like you said, the Braves get hot later. The Atlanta United is normally a team that gets a little hot later. So the strong start's good for us. Bodes well.
That's one of the, worst kept secret in sports is like any team that gets hot going into the playoffs is in a really good spot. You saw it with the Phillies last year and the Padres. They just you start peaking at the right time. That's exactly what happened to the Braves when they won the World Series.
I mean, it's happened to the Hawks when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and the Falcons when they went to the Super Bowl. It's a consistent and the Giants, the 2 years they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It's consistent.
Well, it's definitely predominant in the NFL with a single elimination
absolutely tournament. Whoever's hot.
But it's tougher in the NBA, I would say, and that's why you see higher seeds make it to the finals more often is because of the long
it's a chess match.
And then also, I think I saw something in soccer news, which is weird for me. Caleb Wiley? Is that his name?
Caleb Wiley, yeah.
He got promoted to like the U.S. team, or he's like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
I did not see that. That's awesome.
Unless I dreamt that and somehow.
Called up to the United States men's national team for All-State Continental Classico on April 19th. So.
Hell yeah.
Look at that. A homegrown talent getting a shot into the big league. Good call, man.
I'm so proud of myself for remembering that.
So that's that's Sam's Soccer Seg, brought to you by Sam.
Sam Twain.
That's all I have to say about it, though. Aaron's not here, so I don't know what else to say about soccer.
And
so from there, we can go into Hawks, and that's talking soccer.
Hawks.
Oh. All right, everybody. So last week when we talked, I said the only way we beat this Miami Heat team is if we go out there and we hit our shots. And I was like, there's no way we're going to be more physical than them because the Heat are known to be a really big physical team. And that's kind of how they've beaten us in the past. And jokes on me, we go out there and we out physical them the whole game. We literally went out there and punched them in the mouth the whole game. We're up 36-27 after the first quarter. The second quarter, we win that one 29-23. So at halftime, we're up double digits. We lose the third quarter 28-26. And we lost the fourth quarter 25-27. But at that point, it didn't matter because we'd gotten such a big lead in the beginning of the game. And every time the Heat started coming back, we'd make a timely bucket. So it'd either be a tray 3 or just a easy putback or anything like that. We're getting a lot of those, what are they called? I'm trying to think. Run stoppers. Because a lot of times in basketball, it is a game of runs. So you got to be able to stop the other team when they're going on that heater. And the Hawks have not been able to do that a lot, and they did it in the Heat game. So we basically killed the boards, and that was how we won that game. It was very impressive, and it was one of those things where if this is the Hawks we get throughout all playoffs, we could actually maybe give Boston a run for their money. I'm not saying beat them, just like a chance to actually make it a series.
So that win secured us the 7 seed, right?
It did. So it's one better than last year. Last year we finished the 8 seed. This year we finished the 7 seed. So continuous improvement. But overall,
marginal improvement.
Slight, marginal improvement. Yeah, not much. But then we have the Boston game. So we played yesterday. This game was tough. The worst part about it was we just couldn't make a shot in the first half, and by the second half, the game was already over. So we went down by 30 at halftime. The first quarter, Boston really didn't even look that good. They were outscored us by 10. It was 29-19 at the end of the first. But really, it wasn't like that Boston was playing really well. It was we were missing a lot of shots. And so some people might take away from this game, if you just watch the first half and turn it off and you didn't finish the game, you'd be like, well, this series is over. We are who we thought we are. There's nothing you can glean from this. I saw like a Jeff Schultz piece that said like, this series is probably not going to be competitive at all. And I was like, really? Like, you're discrediting what we saw in the second half? Because it would have been one thing if we went down 30 and then that we finish the game down 30 and like never made a comeback, never showed any life, just like this is who we are, which is something we were consistently throughout the season before Quinn joined the team. But they battled back, and it's disappointing, and there's no moral victories in playoffs. But the takeaways you can have and like the things you can be like, well, here's some bright sides for us is that we held them to only 38 points in the second half. So that's really impressive. So we outscored them by a good bit. I guess we outscored them by 17 in the second half because we only lost by 13. A lot of it was because we started shooting better, but also we played better defense because they were red hot in the second quarter. So something you could see was we found a way to defend them better, and we also started making our shots. And so my argument would be if the Hawks just shot their average percentage from 3 in this game, you would actually saw like maybe a 1-point loss or a 1-point win. Like it would have been a much closer game.
Well, and so like under Quinn as well, we shoot more threes, we take more threes, and when that's your philosophy as a team, that lends itself to potential blowouts. Either direction, really, because if you're hitting all your threes, then you're gonna jump out. If you're not hitting them, then you're gonna see it swing in the negative direction.
Absolutely. So the difference in the game here is if you just are looking at the stat sheet, points in the paint, we tie 54-54. Assist, we had 23, they had 25. Bench points, our bench beat their bench 24-17. But 3-point field goal makes, we were 5 for 29, and they were 13 for 33. So that 8 more 3-pointers is a 24-point differential. So like there's your ball game right there, or in made threes. So we only lost by 13, but they scored 24 more points in threes. So like that just shows you if we just had 4 more threes, but that's a tie game, and that's only us making 9 threes on the game. So something else, if you're looking into like our future team building, like you said, Quinn's going to want to shoot more threes. It makes sense to want to shoot more threes. All the best teams in the league shoot more threes.
Yep.
We don't have the right players around the team right now to do what Quinn exactly wants us to do to win these games. And so you can just see that with our poor shooting. Like when Trey's not hitting shots, we just struggle for making shots from 3, it feels like. So
I got a good question for you. If we hire Quinn last offseason, do we get rid of Red Velvet? Is he on the Kings right now, or does he stay?
Oh, absolutely not.
Is he here at home in Atlanta?
He's here. No, he stays. That's the thing. I think you actually might see like DeAndre Hunter would be the one that would have been moved instead of us extending him. We probably would have done something there. You hate the hindsight though, because
it's tough.
It is tough, but I actually do think he would have stayed because God, Quinn would have loved to have.
But shout out to the Kings. They won their first playoff game in 16 years.
It was awesome, dude. And they came back and won it at the very end, and it's just an incredible game. I don't know if they win the series. It's going to be hard to beat the Warriors just because the Warriors are who we know they are. They won last year. But man, that Kings team can shoot, and they're exciting, and they played at home. So
what seed are the Warriors?
The Warriors are actually the lower seed. So the Kings are the 3 seed. Warriors, I think, would that make them the 6 seed?
Did they just coast this year? Like
they had a lot of injuries. Steph missed a lot of time. Clay missed time. Draymond missed time. So they started off really bad. They were like in 10th or 12th seed for a long time. They fought their way up at the end of the season.
What's your projection
for the
playoffs? Dude, so what are we going to see in the finals? And also, what's your projection for the Celtics and Hawks series?
So Hawks Celtics, I'm thinking Celtics in 6. I like to think the Hawks can get 2. Really, because I just think we're a good enough team to at least get 2 games here. If I had to pick the finals, though, dude, that's so hard. It is so hard. Man.
I put Blake on the spot here. I didn't tell him I was going to ask him this.
Yeah, I'm going to actually do a surprise, and people are going to think I'm dumb for saying this, but I'm actually going to go Lakers for the Western Conference, which that's the 7th seed, which would be absolutely nuts if they made it to the finals. But I'm telling you,
LeBron.
Man,
it's so
it is LeBron.
You never know.
They're a weaker West right now. They're actually beating. So they play Utah in the first round. They're up right now. Wait, I'm lying. They don't play Utah. They play Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. They're up right now 85-83. So Grizzlies are the 2 seed in the West. So I think if LeBron and them can beat them in this opening round, then they could go all the way to the championship. I don't know though. You know what I mean? And in the East, I'm gonna pick I think Boston probably again. So that'd be cool.
See.
Lakers Celtics finals would be kind of cool. It's been a while since we saw the big two teams back in the dance together.
The people over at the Winning Time production, which is the HBO show of
God, they would be so happy.
the Magic Johnson Lakers, basically, they would be very excited about that
Dude,
matchup because that would just
the NBA
just promote the show basically.
The NBA would be super excited about that matchup too. Like that'd have the most fan buy-in would be a Bucks, or if you got like even a Bucks Lakers finals with Antetokounmpo versus LeBron would be really cool.
Yeah, like changing of the guard kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I don't expect the Hawks to beat the Celtics, but I do expect us to get 2 wins. Maybe get a still one from them here and then get one at home. And I don't know. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Like if the Boston's one of the teams that live and die by the 3, and if we get hot and stay hot and they temper off, who knows? Like I'm not trying to say there's no chance, but it's a low chance.
Tough.
It's tough. But that's Hawks. Talking Hawks.
Righto. Well, we ready to get into this mock draft section?
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
Falcons.
So first off, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but we traded for Jeff Okudah with a 5th round pick. I just want to break this down a little bit. Jeff Okudah was the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 draft, I believe, or 2019 draft. Which is a big deal because, like, I mean, anytime you get a top 3 pick for a 5th rounder, something wrong happened with this player, where they're at. Part of it was Jeff Okudah had multiple injuries his first year. Then he tore an Achilles his second year. Oh, baby, a Dirty Birds hat. My God, that's so pretty. If you're on the tube right now, you got to look at this. That's a nice hat, man. I like that a lot.
Nice.
It's the old Dirty Bird Falcon too. That looks good.
Yeah.
So Jeff Okudah, I think, is a great one of those low risk, high reward trades. Like, here's the thing: your 5th round pick, you're very rarely do you get a starter for a 5th round pick. So when you can trade for a guy who comes in and competes for your cornerback 2, cornerback 3 spot, that's a starting position, and it's gonna be way above value compared to other guys you would have taken in that 5th round for that same spot.
What are we missing though? So what's the reason that the lines were so easily parted with this player?
It's a past regime, like, who drafted him really high, and then a new regime's kind of, you know what I mean? Like when you come in and they're just players that never really kind of clicked and they had injury problems. Jeff Okudah actually has best year last year, but even near the end of the year, he got benched while he was playing well. So a lot of people think that
personality fit.
Exactly. Yeah. The him and the coaches that were there didn't get along well. Which I'm guessing is why they were willing to take a 5th, like just get out of here.
Wow.
And so for us, I don't expect Okudah to now live up to his 3rd overall pick, but I do expect him to be a starting cornerback 2, cornerback 3 position for us. And if Jeff Okudah is your cornerback 2, cornerback 3, that's a pretty good defense. That's a good secondary right there.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, being drafted that early tells you the talent that the guy has and like the raw skill. So it'll be interesting to see if we can put it to better use than maybe Detroit was able to.
I think what you're going to see is a lot of him and Mike Hughes playing that slot cornerback kind of safety hybrid position a little bit. Mike Hughes is the other guy we got from Detroit. We signed Mike Hughes a 2-year deal. It wasn't a trade, but they're both 1st round talent who haven't produced as much as you'd like. But when you're bringing 1st round talent to now be your 3rd, 4th starters, 2nd, 3rd, 4th starters, it's really good.
Well, also we still have like AJ Terrell on staff. So
yes, he's your number 1.
Like that's somebody that like maybe Okudah can really learn from these veteran corners that have been around for a little bit.
Well, they're the same. They actually were drafted in the same class.
Oh,
Jeff Okudah was drafted before AJ Terrell in that class. Yeah. So
interesting.
And Jeff Okudah originally wanted to go to the Falcons, but he went way earlier in the draft and we didn't trade up for him. We stuck with AJ Terrell. But the cool part for me is when Jeff Okudah is used to covering like your Justin Jeffersons, like he's used to covering the number 1 guy. Well, you got AJ Terrell doing that. So now Jeff Okudah can cover your 2nd guy who's nowhere near as good as Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, so sure. I think it helps him overall. I know some people are like, well, I hate this whole like trying to salvage a player. I think it's different when a player's been injured. Like I feel like it's because sometimes the guy's just who they are. But with Jeff Okudah, you got to see a lot of flashes, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So if you get a healthy Okudah this year, he could be someone who now next year gets a big contract from another team because maybe we don't want to pay him that, or because we have a chance to do the 5th year option for him. I just don't think we will. It's a $10 million option. He hasn't earned it yet, so I don't
Yeah.
think it's worth doing.
It's a shot in the dark, and we
Yeah.
didn't have to give up much to get him. So
Yeah.
there's upside, and then also with the improved defensive line and what other pieces that we've brought in or that we might draft, along with Ryan Nielsen, there's going to be less pressure and more opportunities for these cornerbacks to make plays.
100%. And I think it also keeps the door open. For one, at first I was like, well, maybe we won't draft a cornerback first overall, like in our first round anymore. I think we still could because a couple of reasons. I think Casey Hayward's still a cuttable player. Like we probably might not keep him now because you got to think we have D. Alford, Mike Hughes, Jeff Okudah, AJ Terrell, and I guess that's 4 or 5 guys that we're already planning on keeping starting. Casey Hayward could be cornerback number 2, but we could also cut him and take another cornerback early, or keep him and take another cornerback early because like this is a 1-year kind of deal with Jeff Okudah. So it doesn't. I don't think it goes from like a 25% chance of taking Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon to like a 10%, but I think it's still around like a 20% chance maybe we take a cornerback in the first round.
I would be okay with us taking a corner early. At 8 still, and mostly because like it feels like the Falcons specifically have had a lot of injuries in the secondary. The past few years, so nothing wrong with having a little extra depth there.
I think you're 100% right. And we talked about it last year when Falcons injuries happened. I said, wow, the Falcons have more depth this year than recent years. Like our quality of play has gone down only a little bit. But then y'all said, well, our starting quality is not that great, though. So it's like, but this year, I would say the Falcons doubled down on that and went for really valuable depth. I think we brought our ceiling up, but I think we also brought the floor way higher this year than last year. Yeah. So the other move we made was signing Bud Dupree, who's a linebacker that originally got drafted out of Kentucky to the Steelers.
Yes.
Had a great time there. And then he battled injuries in Tennessee, but he still has had multi-digit sack years. And now he's going to come in the Falcons instead of having to be a every down kind of linebacker, edge rusher. He can be like a second, third down kind of guy, only being out there when we need him. So if you haven't been catching up with all the D-line edge moves we've made so far this offseason, our D-line outside linebacker room now looks like this. You have Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Eddie Goldman came out of retirement to play again, which like that's, if you don't remember Eddie Goldman, like he was a second round pick out of the Chicago Bears, who's been an incredible player his whole career as a defensive tackle. You have Caden Ellis, Lorenzo Carter, Bud Dupree, Arnold Edekabi, and D'Angelo Malone. So like we have a squad that can all now rush the passer and play D-line. And then when you brought in Jesse Bates, and you've also now gotten Mike Hughes and Jeff Okudah, I'm pretty impressed with the defensive overhaul we've had.
You just listed off all those defensive linemen, and now I'm like, shit, I don't know if my mock drafts are gonna actually.
If we go
happen.
edge,
it seems unlikely now. After you read off all those guys.
Yeah, so I will say this, and that's what I wanted to start transitioning to was, although we've done all these big defensive signings, if you really look at what we did this offseason, Jesse Bates, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, those 3 guys signed multi-year contracts to stay with the Falcons. A lot of these other guys, the Calais Campbell, Eddie Goldman coming out of retirement might only be a year. Jeff Okudah is like a potential 1-year deal. Mike Hughes, who's like a nickel back corner, is never going to be your cornerback too. It was a 2-year deal, but like he's not, like I said, he's not going to be your second cornerback. A lot of these guys sign 1-year deals. So these are guys that are only going to be here for a year, bringing great veteran leadership, great depth that we hadn't had, but we're going to need a full-time replacement for them next year. So I think it still does leave that option open for a edge rusher at 8, a cornerback at 8. Now, does it make it a necessity anymore? No. I think you can now maybe wait till the second round, third round, but I could still see them go first round getting one of these guys. And that's why I don't think your mock could be completely wrong. I just think we have way more options now at 8 than we did before.
A lot of these guys can bridge the gap for us for a year if we don't happen to take that position. And honestly, it gives the guys, Terry and Art, a lot of flexibility going into the draft too, to make those decisions as it comes and wait to see how the draft falls. But yeah, I mean, maybe we do end up taking really an interior defensive lineman as well.
Yeah, we could. And I want to say you just made a really good point that a need now this year may not be caught this year, but may happen next year. And the reason I say that's important to think about is because our GM and our all of our scouts and our coaches, they don't look at this as a 1-year vacuum thing. They're looking next year, the next year after that. They already have players scouted for the next couple of years of people they're looking at and they're interested in. So when they're doing these boards and they're doing their big board, deciding who they're going to take, and if this player goes here, then where does the next dominoes fall? They're also looking at those same dominoes for years to come, because they know that with some of this signings we've done, it's given us some flexibility to maybe go, you know what? Actually, let's go for the best edge next year, because we think the edge class next year is more deep, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's the route that what position they're saying, but it could be that way for a said position. And this year's draft's not like the deepest draft, and by any, it's really top heavy for a couple positions, and then a couple positions are a little deep. But like, this is not one of those drafts where I'd be like, let's accumulate picks. This is one of those drafts where it's like, go get your guys, because after your guys are gone, it's going to be finding some diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
For certain positions.
It definitely feels like you'll have to attack which players you actually want to make sure you have on your team. With some
Absolutely.
Of these guys. Do you want to talk about?
So let's.
We both ran through a bunch of mock drafts and then had some other people submit them in the Discord. You can join that Discord at discord.io/blursports if you want to get into the mix.
Link tree.
It is.
And all of our links are in our link tree and our social medias. So yeah, just click on them there. Yeah. So.
What trends did you see? What do you think about some of your selections?
So first off, when we were doing mock drafts, I tried like 10 different websites. My favorite one was probably Pro Football Focus. You can get a free trial, a 7-day free trial right now if you're listening, if you want to try your own mock draft. They just had, I felt like it made sense. The picks made sense, because a lot of times in other drafts, you would see Bryce Young fall to like 8. And it's like, that's not going to happen. It's just not. Like Bryce Young, if he's not 1, he's 2. You know what I mean? Like it's not one of those things where he could fall to 8. Some of the things I noticed were, every time I was doing picks, that the Falcons are going to have their shot at getting an edge guy in round 1 or an offensive lineman in round 1, and then the opposite in round 2. So wherever they go round 1, I think they should probably go the opposite in round 2. They're going to have a pretty good selection at round 3 of wide receivers and round 4. Same with a halfback if they're looking for a running back in that kind of situation. And as the draft finishes out, I think they should look to just bolster some depth at either safety, offensive line, or defensive line. I saw there were some linebackers I was kind of interested in. We can get into the specific players, but that's kind of just how I saw it playing out for pick 8 and where we were at pick wise, and that's from Pro Football Focus, kind of where I saw that the most playing out. I don't know if you saw something different.
Yeah, I mostly use the NFL mock draft one, but I tried a couple of other websites as well. But I feel like the Pro Football one, the premium one that we have now, is probably the best one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the way it falls, I agree, especially with the moves that we've made. If you take Peter Skoronski at 8, and then there's guys like Keon White or the edge rusher out of Iowa. What is his name?
Will McDonald.
Yeah,
Iowa State. Yeah, Will McDonald. You also have just to give you a couple more names there. Hold up, I have them right here. Where is he? Tuli Tuipulotu?
Yeah, out of Alabama.
No, he's out of USC.
Oh, okay.
Tuli Tuipulotu.
We're gonna have to Google that one.
Yeah, he's out of USC. I don't know exactly. I'm probably butchering his name, and I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, you definitely did.
But I also thought he was a interesting prospect, because he's out of USC, and we took Drake London out of USC last year, and sometimes those relationships with coaches and teams kind of matter in the NFL draft.
Let's so out of all the mocks that you did, let's pick the one that you liked the most, and let's read off your picks.
Well, so here's my ideal situation. My round 1, if everything went the way I would like for it to go, I'd like to take Tyree Wilson with the 8th pick overall. I'll say something I noticed was Tyree Wilson a lot of times wasn't there, which had me going for Peter Skoronski, because he is my number 2 right now. But if, say, I was just doing an edge draft and I'm taking the best edge, I'm going Tyree Wilson. In round 2, I'm looking to draft Cody Mauch, who is a tackle guard combo out of, I think, Montana State. He's missing his 2 front teeth because of basketball.
Oh, he's the red
high school
guy.
Yeah, Cody Mauch. He's North Dakota State tackle, but he'd probably play guard in the NFL. He's just one of those people movers, and he kind of matches the Caleb McGarry kind of like redheaded, kind of what we're already looking at in our offensive line. I think he'd be a great player. Him or Steve Avila. Steve Avila is another guard, and he is out of TCU, so we saw him in the championship game. Probably not his best game, but he's still a good offensive guard. So that's my first round going edge, second round going guard. My third round, this is where I wanted to get a playmaker so I went, my number one pick here would be Tank Dell. He's a wide receiver. His full name, if you don't know who Tank Dell is Nathaniel Dell. He played for the Houston Cougars. He's a tall receiver. He runs like a 4.4, something like that. He's super quick, an explosive playmaker, and he's just something that we don't have on our receiving core right now. And if he wasn't there, I like Devin Acne, which is like a running back out of Texas A&M, or I like Garrett Williams, who is I believe he's a cornerback. Yeah, he's a cornerback out of Syracuse. So that's kind of my playmakers. Or Jordan Battle, who's the safety out of Alabama. So those are my first three rounds, which I like. For me, I want to sure both lines, and then I wanted to pick a player who is a playmaker, whether it's cornerback or wider offense. Like I wanted to kind of have one of those. Just because I think all those are really important, and I think that's our best value picks in this draft, rounds 1 through 3. I also like Keon White there if we go tackle, but I could talk about that later.
Edge.
I will say this: if you miss out on Tyree Wilson, I'm a fan of trading back and getting Lucas Van Ness, Miles Murphy, or Nolan Smith. Or if you don't think you can trade back and get him, I'm still okay with taking them at 8. But something I like is, say you were to be able to trade back and get like a Lucas Van Ness or a Miles Murphy or Nolan Smith. If you could then use whatever that pick is, you got to trade back into the end of the first round. I'd love to see us go get Osiris Torrance, the guard out of Florida. He's just a big guy who just sits there. He'd be great on our offensive line, and it would really ensure that we'd have the number 1 rushing offensive line.
The closer we get to the draft, the more likely it seems that we might trade back, because right at that 8 pick seems like about where 3 of the quarterbacks at least will be gone already. And so there's the top 4, the big 4 quarterbacks. Probably the last one's going to be Will Levis. So any other team that wants to get a rookie quarterback this year, they're going to be interested in trading up to that spot and taking him there.
So one of my favorite trades I did the whole time was actually, like you said, if the way the board goes, if there's 2 quarterbacks left or 1 quarterback left and we're picking, there's a chance, like you said, someone wants to trade up and get that quarterback. I think it'd be the Tennessee Titans. But I also could see the Eagles wanting to trade up, maybe to go for Bijan or something like that. But point is, Tennessee at 11 makes the most sense. And my favorite draft I did was I traded back with Tennessee to pick up their 3rd round pick and their first. So you go back 3 positions, but you're able to get their 3rd round pick and their first. So then I went back and I got Peter Skoronski actually at
11.
Yeah, at 11. And then I was able to then trade up at the end of the first round and get Will McDonald. So I was able to do 2 first round picks, and I was able to get both the offensive line and the defensive line that I wanted. So there's situations like that where trading back could work, but I'm only interested in trading back if we can get back in the first or second round here, because there's just such a drop off in talent in this draft.
And we don't need to push picks into next season either. So like as long as we move back, like if we move back 2 picks and we pick up like a second round next year, I'm okay with that. But
Same.
like, we don't need to lose picks in this draft. And I agree. Like it's kind of flip flop based on what picks occurred. I think my favorite drafts, I took Skoronski at 8, and then Keon White out of Georgia Tech as an edge rusher.
He's on my list.
And then in that draft, Josh Downs actually fell to pick 75, the 3rd round.
I saw that,
which I was like, whoa, that would be incredible, because that's one of the playmakers. His comp is Kadarius Toney, that would be incredible to have somebody like that, with that flexibility and speed.
He's like right there with Tank Dell is like my top 2 targets. If one of those guys could fall to us in round 3, like it'd be a home run.
And then the other ones are who? Jalen Hyatt and Zay Flowers. Those are the other guys who with incredible speed and kind of game breaking ability.
I just don't think Zay Flowers will be there for us, because I think he's a first round talent.
You think so? I've seen that like most. I don't know that there's really a wide receiver after JSN that's a first round pick.
So technically, I think JSN could technically be the only one, but Quentin Johnston's getting a first round grade from TCU. And then a lot of times, my hunch is this, a lot of times in the NFL draft, you see a run on wide receivers and tackles. So I'm just thinking that when you see a wide receiver go, you may see 2-3 go. So you could see some wide receivers going a little earlier than they're supposed to.
I will say, like, when I took a guard early, like if I took edge rusher like Tyree Wilson, I took him at 8. There's not really like a good tackle like Skoronski in the second round like that. It's like it doesn't line up the right way.
Well, you don't. Well, yeah, that's true. But I think what you're looking at then is if you're going edge at 8, you're taking a guard in round 2 because you don't need a tackle this year. We don't have to draft a tackle. You got Jake Matthews. He's technically his contract runs for another like 3 years, but we have an option to get out of it next year, which I think the Falcons might get out of it next year. But if that's the case, then we might just go tackle first overall next year. You know what I mean? Like you still don't need that position right now. You do need a left guard. You have to have an upgrade in the middle of the line, which is why like I'm a big fan. One reason I like Peter Skoronski is because you can put him at guard and you have the option to move him later if you want to, or you can keep him at guard. That's also why I like Cody Mauch or Osiris Torrance, because those are both startable guards.
What do you say? Do you want to go through a mock draft real quick? The two of us?
Yeah, let's do it. I also wanted to bring up Frank, our good friend Frank. He's a Jets fan and a Falcons fan. He only did the first 4 rounds of this mock draft, but he traded back at pick 8 to the Seattle Seahawks. So he traded pick 8 and round 4, the 113th pick, for pick 20, pick 37, and a round 2, 2024. So honestly, a really good haul. At pick 20, he picked Nolan Smith. I'd be perfectly okay with that. Like I said, my 4 edge rushers I'm looking for: Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, Miles Murphy, and Nolan Smith. Really, I'd be happy with any 4 of those guys. After that, he went Jack Campbell in round 2, 37. Linebacker is not a necessity for us, and it's not our biggest need. But if we're going for a linebacker in this draft, Jack Campbell makes a lot of sense. Him, or I actually really like Dorian Williams out of Tulane in round 4. He's just a really good coverage linebacker, and it's kind of what we need. And then for Frank, because he knows the Falcons need offensive help, he went the next 3 picks in round 2, round 3, and round 4. Tank Dell, Jalen Hyatt, and Marvin Mims. I don't think the Falcons go 3 wide receivers, but I could see them going 2 wide receivers. Do I think they'll invest 2-day picks on them? Do 2-day 2 picks on them? No, but I do think we'll have at least 1 wide receiver go in that day 2 between the 2 and round 4 kind of area. And I think Tank Dell or Jalen Hyatt makes sense. I also think Cedric Tillman, the other wide receiver out of Tennessee, makes sense a lot too, if that was someone we were interested in. So for this draft, I'm going to stream it to Discord. If you want to hop into the Discord, let's mute ourselves in there.
Yeah, I definitely know how to do that for sure.
Hop in the bullpen.
Mute. Watch stream.
Yeah. There we go. Hey. See it?
Yep. Oh, nice. Cool. Well done. Technology.
Yeah, technology. All right, so let's enter this draft. All right. We're going to start. We're going slow. We'll read the first picks, and then we'll just do our picks only. So Bryce Young goes first overall. Shocker there. Let's actually talk about that. So Bryce Young, recently, there was the new test that came out. There's always a new test every 5 years that the quarterbacks are taking. They're talking about Bryce Young apparently scored the highest grade of any quarterback in the last 5 years, including beating Josh Allen and guys like him. So this was considered a really big deal. And the owner, David Tepper of the Carolina Panthers, said he values this grade a lot. Guess who didn't do well in this test? CJ Stroud. He did the worst, the 4 quarterbacks. So
what kind of test is this?
It's about reaction speed, alarm. It's a bunch of different things, decision-making, reactions. It's a cognitive test to see how, I guess it's for playmaking ability. I'm not 100% sure. I just know CJ Stroud scored in the 60s and the other 3 quarterbacks all scored in the 90s. Yeah. So not a good look for Stroud. Another thing that's interesting about this is guess who is Stroud's agent? The same agent as Deshaun Watson. Guess who picks number 2? The Houston Texans. So if Stroud drops a 2, there's a chance Texans don't pick Stroud, which means do the Texans?
It's not a good relationship there between the Texans and that.
No, agent. Not at all. So if Bryce Young does go 1 overall, it can make for a very weird draft. So in our mock that we're doing right now, Bryce Young went first overall, and the Texans went Anthony Richardson. So there's no CJ Stroud there.
Oof.
Yeah,
his rise has been crazy this year.
It's crazy. You know what I saw? I will give him something. Here's my caveat. This is my first time I'm using this word, and the only time I'll use this word this week. I saw that he had the highest. Thank you. This shout out to Nick, property manager where I live. He's an awesome sports guy. We're starting he's gonna start maybe becoming more involved with Blursed because he knows so much sports, man. He just has a mind for it. He pointed out that Anthony Richardson had the most drop passes in the entire college last year. They had 105 drop passes as a team. 105. Wow. So that actually accounts for some of his completion percentage woes from college. I'm not saying that makes me think he's a top guy. I'm just saying I'm starting to see how some people can make a little bit of excuses for why they think he should go this high.
Hey, that's why sometimes they say a quarterback that throws a catchable ball,
Yes. Yeah,
maybe that's true. Important too. So it depends on like where you could hit a guy right in the chest right when he's about to get nailed by a linebacker or something.
And
like
it'd be a drop pass. That'd be a drop. Yeah. So you're not wrong.
It's hard to say.
It is. All right. Will Anderson goes 3rd overall. This is pretty on chalk. The Arizona Cardinals have actually been saying they are taking calls right now for the 3rd pick overall. So there's a lot of teams interested. Some people think that Tennessee Titans might be the team that calls them, trades up there and gets their quarterback. So we'll see. The Colts take CJ Stroud at 4 to get their quarterback of the future, best quarterback they've had since Andrew Luck. Tyree Wilson goes 5 to Seattle. Jalen Carter 6 to the Lions. I think that's interesting to me because the Lions, I see them take Tyree Wilson and Jalen Carter a lot. I think they go cornerback. I just think after you traded Jeff Okudah, you did sign a couple guys, but I just feel like maybe they go cornerback 1st overall and really reassure their secondary.
Yeah. It's interesting so far. Like there's just the Raiders to pick now before us, and none of the corners or Gonzalez nor Witherspoon have gone yet.
All right, we're about to see we might see the first one here. Yep, Devin Witherspoon went. So now at 8, we have Will Levis here. I know you like Will Levis. Will Levis, for me, I'm Desmond Ridder over Will Levis when you're just looking at 3rd round pick, 1st round pick, the intangibles they have coming out of college. There's too similar to me for me to be like, oh, we should take him at 8 overall this year. So this leaves us with Peter Skoronski. We have Christian Gonzalez. We could reach a little bit for Lucas Van Ness. We could trade back. What are you thinking here?
Do we have any offers?
We have 5 teams that are interested. We could go to the Patriots at 14, Commanders at 16, Las Vegas at 21. If we went back to the Patriots at 14.
What are they offering us though?
So we'd have to make the little trade with them on this. So I would have to, so I could click 14, click 8, and I'll say this trade is lopsided. Your team will veto. So then we could maybe ask to get, so we could get their 2nd round pick and their 1st round pick to go down 6. We could probably ask for a little bit more than that and maybe offer them like, I don't know. What do you think? Would you want to do this?
So I mean, really it'd be Skoronski here. It just feels like it doesn't feel like we need a cornerback after that trade as much.
I agree. I'm okay with trading back with the Patriots here.
All right, let's trade back and pick up their 2nd round pick too.
Do you think, should we try to go for more or just go for the 2nd?
Let's just go for the 2nd so it goes through.
Okay. Offer trade. Awesome. So we now are going back to 14. The Patriots with our pick select Will Levis. Wow. I can see that happening too. They're talking about him being Mac Jones being on the out. Lucas Van Ness goes at 9. Peter Skoronski drops to 10. Christian Gonzalez goes at 11 to the Titans. Quentin Johnson goes 12 to the Texans, which makes sense. Paris Johnson Jr. going to the Jets now.
Real quick. So we actually talked about that situation not 10 minutes ago. So 3 of the quarterbacks had gone off the board. And then the last Big 4 quarterback, Will Levis, is available at 8. And that's a situation I think makes a lot of sense. If the Raiders don't take him, which they just traded for Jimmy G, so maybe they won't. But that is where that situation makes sense for us to trade back, and somebody's going to want to trade up to that spot.
Absolutely. I think now if we're going best player available, let me take these off real quick. I kind of feeling do we just take Nolan Smith here?
Let's see. Yeah,
we have. I think you go I think you still go edge. It's him or Miles Murphy for me.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued by JSN there.
Going wide receiver? Really? You want to go wide receiver?
I mean, he's the top rated receiver, and he fell behind Quentin Johnson in this draft somehow.
So let me tell my only opinion on that for what it's worth. Could Broderick Jones play guard? I don't think we would do that. My only opinion on that is going to say I'd rather take Bijan than JSN. And here's why.
I hate you so much for saying that. I hate you so much. Just
But
kidding.
I feel like here's why. If your offense is already going to be very running focused and you're looking for more playmakers, he can do it both. He can run the ball for you. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm not saying we draft him right here. I'm just saying I'd rather go him over JSN. Let's go Nolan Smith. Let's just go Nolan Smith.
Yes, or else we're gonna have problems. I'm gonna have to fly to Georgia just to fight you.
All right, guys. So we'll finish reading off the first round. Joey Porter Jr. goes 15th to Green Bay. Kalijah Cansey defense goes to Washington. JSN goes to the Steelers. Broderick Jones tackle goes to the Lions. Devontae Banks cornerback goes to the Buccaneers. Brian Branch safety to the Seahawks. Darnell Wright, the tackle at Tennessee, to the Chargers. Ravens on the clock. They pick Jordan Addison to get Lamar, another wide receiver. Zay Flowers, another wide receiver, going again at 23 to the Vikings, followed by Dalton Kincaid to the Jaguars. That's a pretty good pick for them. Brian Breesy, the internal defensive end, goes to New York, followed by Miles Murphy to the Cowboys. Michael Meyer, the tight end out of Notre Dame, to the Bills. Anton Harrison, tackle out of Oklahoma, to the Bengals. Will McDonald, the fourth, to the Saints. Edmund Forbes, the cornerback, to the Eagles. And then Felix Adekunle Uzma, the edge out of Kansas State, goes to the Chiefs. And Bijan Robinson falls to 32 to go to the second round to the Steelers.
Interesting. So we'll just skip to our picks now. But
yeah,
the thing I was really watching through that process was like what wide receivers have gone. And so it looked like Josh Downs actually just went like right after Bijan there, and then Zay Flowers also went.
Zay Flowers, where did he went? So Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers both went in round one, along with JSN and Quentin Johnson. You could see 4 wide receivers again, and I don't even think the wide receivers.
That's more than I expected. Yeah, it feels weaker.
I think 3 might go if we get there. But yeah, it's a weaker class, so I just don't know how much I like that. The sad part for me is seeing Cody Mauch go at 37 to the Seahawks. So we're going to have to now go somewhere else. So we picked our edge guy. I really like Steve Avila out of TCU as a guard here.
Just to mention, so since we traded back, this is the pick that we picked up from the Pats. And then we have a pick at 46 as well. So there's one pick in between our next 2. So let's see.
What do you like here?
Is Jalen Hyatt still on the board?
Yeah, he is. I mean, so is Tank Dell.
I'm a
Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt is considered. You want to go Hyatt second right here?
ADP is 62.
I think we could.
Damn.
Yeah. I say we go. Let's get the guard first and then go Hyatt.
All right.
Yeah. I like Steve Avila. Jamar Gibbs went next, and now we go get Hyatt. I will say this. I know we're both Hyatt guys. I could see the Falcons taking Cedric Tillman over Hyatt in the draft, just because Tillman's that big body possession receiver.
Or if you wanted to wait to the next, if you wanted to wait to the third round on that too, because we have pick 75 and Tillman will probably still be there in the third round.
Well, Tank Dell is definitely here, but he's not. Tillman's gone.
Oh,
so Tillman went between those picks.
A little bit of a reach there.
Yeah. Tank Dell, though, he is still there. All right, so now through 3 rounds, we have gotten our edge, Nolan Smith. We got our guard and Steve Avila, and then we got our wide receiver and Jalen Hyatt. So now we are in round 3, pick 75. I think here you're trying to look for best player available, best fit kind of. What do you like here? Well, I like cornerback. I like Garrett Williams here.
To me, I agree. We have to focus on secondary after
I like Jordan
the picks
Battle.
that we've made.
So my 3 favorite picks right here would be Garrett Williams, a cornerback out of Syracuse. I like him a lot. I like Jordan Battle, the safety out of Alabama. I kind of prefer going safety out of Alabama over Jordan just because Alabama's SEC, you're playing a better talent. And I really like Jamie Robinson, the safety out of Florida State, who's also a Georgia boy.
I'll punt it to you. You can pick whoever you want out of that secondary.
Okay, I'm going to go Jordan Battle. I think Jordan Battle will be great. We're going to play a lot more slot cornerback. You want to see 3 safety sets a lot. I just think he's a good player. He can get down, stop the run. Also has pretty good play recognition. And anytime you come out of Alabama, I mean, you're going to be a good player. All right, so now we're in round 4. We do have, so in the actual draft, we do have 2 picks here in round 4. We have pick 110, pick 113. I wouldn't be surprised in the real draft to see the Falcons try to package up and trade up in the draft and use one of these picks. We traded down, but I could see that happening just to go get your guy. I'm a fan of going and get like Roshan Johnson here, the halfback out of Texas. He's the backup to.
Did my guy go already?
Bijan.
Kenny Mack go?
Who's your guy, Kenny? Kenny doesn't normally go until a weird period where we can't it's a weird round. Dead zone for the Falcons. Yeah, and we don't have a 5th round pick anymore. We traded both of ours.
Who's pull up the tight end situation here, because this is like where in other mocks I've done there's a fall off after Croft. He's already gone.
We have Lutz. Yeah, we have Lutz Schoonmaker. Yeah, so right here for me, I really personally, I've liked the Dorian Williams linebacker kind of take here. I've liked going for a halfback here. I also like going one of these. I've gone Skinner in the past. We already went safety, so we don't really need to go Skinner. I also like going another wide receiver here. I actually think 2 wide receivers are fine in this draft. So I'm down to go halfback into wide receiver, or wide receiver into halfback.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we pick up a corner or something later too, since we took
safety. So let's go. Tyler Scott is a fast guy. What I really like about Tyler Scott too is he played with our boy Ritter in college. They had a really good partnership, and he also played really well without him. And I'm going to go Roschon Johnson, who I think fits us perfectly as a 3rd down running back for the Texans Longhorns, which is what we need in Atlanta. If Algiers your 1st and 2nd down guy, Roschon Johnson will be your 3rd down guy. He's a good pass blocker and a good catcher out of the backfield.
Didn't we brought back Hodge, right?
Yeah, we bought back Cordell Hodge.
Okay, yes. So right now our receiving core is shaping up as London,
Matt Collins, Hodge, and Scotty Miller. And then you have some other guys. So that's why I think you draft 2 wide receivers in this draft.
And or somebody's
at least one high. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a couple of players get cut. All right. So now we're round 7. We have 3 picks in round 7 this year. Like I said, I could see us packaging some of these. Yeah. So personally, I like going offensive line depth here. I like Jake Andrews, the center. I also like Anthony Bradford. I've also taken safety depth here, and Quindell Johnson's a good player.
This is where I fall off, and I have no idea who any of these
I've done a lot of research on all these people today and this weekend. So.
Usually I've been trying to, with the last pick, I'll try to grab a quarterback just to add a little bit of depth.
So the Falcons already have 3 quarterbacks, so I don't see us drafting one.
Who's the 3rd, though?
Westlake. He's just a practice squad guy.
Yeah, might as well
or get Westwood, we could. I don't think we'll do it, but we could. Let's go get Max Duggan.
Yeah, do it.
Is Stetson already taken? Yeah.
I don't think I did a draft where I took the last pick or something like that, and then I was like, I actually don't Falcons like that at all. I don't.
Yeah, Falcons aren't going to take him.
It's not a good idea, from a fan perspective. We got a B.
All right, guys.
We got a B.
Pro Football Focus gave us a B. The picks they didn't like were the Tyler Scott and Roschon Johnson. But so we got a B+ for our trade with the Patriots, a B+ for taking Nolan Smith at 14. We got B- for Steve Avila, round 2, 44. C+ for Jalen Hyatt, in round 2 is probably a little higher than they would think. Jordan Battle, we got a B- in round 3. Tyler Scott and Roschon Johnson are 4th round picks, C+, C- respectively. But at this point, we're just looking to add as the most valuable players we can. And then we got a B, an A, and a B+ for our last 3 picks. Quindell Johnson gives a little A at that safety depth later. But yeah, honestly, good draft. What I think is important here and what we've been focusing on, whether it goes this way for the actual Falcons, I'm not sure, but it's that offensive line, defensive line, cornerback, wide receiver kind of one of those options make me really happy. And then following that, maybe up with a safety or the opposite.
Yeah. Hit your needs and then, let our coaches go to work and get them up to speed.
So I do want to say this, my question, on a scale 1 to 10, how mad would you be if Bijan's our pick and in round 1? I don't know what pick. I'm just saying round 1. I don't know if we'd stay at 8 to take him.
I will be 10 upset.
10 out of 10, man.
That's how I value the running back position. We have a 5th round running back in Tyler Algier who is looking to be a top 10 running back, if not higher, in the league this season, especially with our scheme and our offensive line, the way that Art runs the offense. I just don't see it as necessary, and I think he and Cordarrelle Patterson can carry the load. And that's not even to mention who's our other
Caleb Huntley,
Avery Williams.
So
they're all good. And especially in this scheme. So if we are in a position, if we are at the end of the 1st round, going into the 2nd round, and he's still there, and we want to trade up or something and like that to get him at
I did that in a draft.
I would be okay with that. I would be okay, but that means he has fallen further than expected.
Well, I think I'm right there with you on that one. I would be I'm gonna say this. I'd be a 7 on the mad scale. I get the talent. Bijan's so talented. I really do think he could be one of the top 5 most talented players in this draft, and I do think wherever he goes, he's going to put up crazy numbers. I also think if you look, some people are arguing that like Saquon Barkley pick for the Giants was horrible for them. But you got to look where they were at. They were at the beginning of the rebuilding phase. We're near the end of our rebuild phase. Could a running back be more beneficial for us? Maybe. But I'm with you. I think too, when you do the board yourself, if we take Bijan first overall, your opportunity cost at these other positions of need just is becomes so much harder. The depth just isn't there this year for you to want to do that. Whereas I think halfbacks, running backs, I think is one of those places where you do find some good depth for what we need. Like the Falcons don't need the guy who needs to carry the team. The Falcons need that guy that complements Algier. And you can find that throughout the draft. Tyjae Spears is another guy I really like later in the draft out of Tulane.
And that's why I've been high on Kenny McIntosh, but like it doesn't have to be him. It can be another talented running back that we get 4th, 5th, 6th round even. And that can be a talented pass catcher. But I think it's important that we hit a wide receiver that has top end speed, that can break away, get the long ball. And then, I think the one thing with our draft, I wish we had been able to pick up a tight end there, like maybe like in the 4th round, but it didn't fall that way this time.
Right.
But just because I don't know, it gives us a little depth there. I know we just brought in what's his name?
Jonnu?
Yes, Jonnu Smith.
And I think we'll also re-sign Mecole Pruitt, actually. It hasn't happened yet, but if I had to guess 2 players that haven't been re-signed that will be re-signed, I would guess Rashaan Evans comes back on a minimum deal, and I think Mecole Pruitt probably comes back on a minimum deal.
Could happen.
Another name I like for y'all to keep an eye on is Keaton Mitchell. He's the speed running back out of ECU. He ran a 4.37. He's a really good, super fast out of the backfield, good hands. I think he'd be a lot of fun to be in the backfield with Tyler Algier. Yeah, they're gorgeous. He's actually a hand model. But something else real quick before we finish this Falcon segment. If you're trying to keep up with all things Falcons, a lot of times we don't get a lot in the national media, and it's kind of sad. And if we do, it's to make fun of us. And it's recently been a lot because we haven't gone for Lamar. And I still stand by it. Like, look at our roster today compared to the end of the 2022 season. We're so much better right now already. And we couldn't have done most of that if we went and got Lamar. So pump the brakes there. Number 2, Pat McAfee. Really like him. He was part of Barstool, left because he didn't like Barstool. Can't blame him. But what he did was he talked about the Falcons the other day on their podcast for about 10 minutes, and they complimented us the whole time. Talked about one thing he said about Arthur Smith. He said Arthur Smith's the guy who was born with silver spoon in hand, but he doesn't act like the guy who was born with silver spoon in hand. And this is why he said that. He said he could very easily throw in the towel and give up and just be like, I'm already rich. I don't have to do any of this crap. Like, I don't need to do this. But instead, he was the guy who was there at 5 a.m. watching tape at Tennessee. And he was the guy. Players love the guy. Players who talked to him on Pat McAfee's show talked about Arthur Smith, love the guy. And he said he believes in Arthur Smith, that he's going to be a winner. He said constantly last year on the Pat McAfee show, they talked about the Falcons when they were talking about like the 49ers and when they were talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and other creative offenses that found creative ways to get the running backs the ball. They kept saying that the Falcons kept coming up because Art's offense is creative and unique, and he's going to find a way to win. So it was cool. It was just cool to hear that, because I've heard little to nothing positive about the Falcons in national media.
If we have better quarterback play, do you think we're as heavy on the run as we were last year? Is that our philosophy, is to be run heavy like the Titans were with Derrick Henry, or are it's gonna swing more the other way?
I think we have short-term memory on the Falcons, because if you look at the team the year before that, we've passed the ball a lot still. Matt Ryan still put up like 4,000 yards passing, and that was with Kyle Pitts as his only receiver, basically.
We're trying to play to our players' strengths.
Exactly. Art's a good coach in the sense that, it's jury's out whether he's still a good head coach, but he's a good offensive schemer in the sense that he knows what his best players are and what they're capable of, and he will make sure the team fits that. I still stand by this. We talked about in the Discord today. So like we said, join the Discord. Really, we do talk in there every day about different Atlanta sports. Yep. Something we talked about today was Arthur Blank's history of meddling with different things in the program. I think I read a report on this. I still think this is true. I think Matt Ryan would still have been the quarterback this last year if Arthur Blank didn't want us to go after Deshaun Watson. I stand by that. And what bothers me the most about that, when you reminisce on it, Matt Ryan, even with the crappy season he had with the Colts, was a better quarterback than Mariota. Like, we would have been a playoff team this year. if we had Matt Ryan. I think so. I actually do think that. And I think Ritter would have had a better quarterback to sit behind as he studied and maybe would be more prepared this coming year. But Arthur Blank meddled. And I think
you don't think Mariota was a good mentor to Desmond Ritter? The guy that quit on the team as soon as he lost his starting position?
Yeah, not at all. And
what a scumbag. Fuck that guy.
I hope he doesn't do well. And the Eagles hope they don't win a Super Bowl because I don't want him to get a ring. I'm going to be bitter about that. Sure, I will be. But to that point, I'll say that apparently Blank might be trying to meddle again. So if we do something weird to the quarterback again, I'm going to be very upset. But I saw rumors of that again. So let's just fingers crossed that's not the case.
If I wouldn't love it. I think Ritter is capable of carrying the team and being the starting quarterback in the NFL. But if like Stroud is there at 8, then that's where I think that I could see it going that direction. At that point, I don't know what you do with Ritter, though. You just let him be a backup, like a career backup?
You let him compete. You let them compete for the starting job. No, Stroud has to win the job, though, at that point, right? Like, you would assume.
He has to.
He has to win the job at that point. I don't know what you do at that point. But my thing is, if Stroud falls to 8, I'm not mad at the Falcons for taking him at 8. I also understand if we don't take him at 8, because maybe if he's falling, there's a reason he's falling. But like I said, if he's there at 8, I will not be mad at the Falcons for taking him at 8.
No.
Same with Bryce Young. If Bryce Young fell there.
He's so pro-ready. It wouldn't make sense. And, like, honestly, I could see, like, the reverse happening of what happened in our mock draft of where I could see the Colts taking Will Levis. I think he kind of plays into that same frame of Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. Like, he's athletic, he's big, and he has a quick release.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson makes more sense to me for, like, maybe the Tennessee Titans. But Will Levis kind of reminds me of Tannehill, too, though. Like, he could kind of come in right after Tannehill after this 1 year. I think something that's important to notice about our mock draft, too, is that we didn't see cornerback go before we picked until the Raiders. I think you may see the Lions go cornerback. I just think there's a big chance they go cornerback. And if he goes cornerback, I just think Tyree Wilson kind of makes the most sense for the Falcons. And here's why. Something we haven't talked about a lot is Ryan Nielsen. Ryan Nielsen, what he's known for is coaching up defensive lines. He's known for getting the most out of these guys, for developing young guys. If you're trying to go get a project like Tyree Wilson, who could be a potential, like, he could be your potential Cameron Jordan, like or he could be your next Class Campbell. If that's what you're trying to go for, Nielsen's the guy to coach him up to it. So it makes me feel like there will be that edge rusher, either first or second round, pretty early.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty interesting draft. These are kind of our thoughts on it. Let us know what you think. Maybe we'll put up our mock draft results or something like that.
We'd love that.
So we can see it. But
yeah, and
I think that's all we have this week. Anything you want to leave the folks with?
I wanted to look at what we're going to talk about next week for football. So next week will be the week of the draft. So we're going to make our last predictions based on all the information we know. And then we'll just talk about, we'll try to do like a bold prediction for the draft, a wild card prediction, any other draft insights we might have. And we'll talk about what would have to make this draft be considered successful or not for the Falcons. So we'll get into that conversation next week. I'm pretty excited. I hope you all have a good week. Let's hope the Braves keep winning, and maybe the Hawks steal a game or two before we talk next time.
Let's ride. All right. Later, everybody.
Blursed Nation, let's ride. Peace.
Before you go, if you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share with your friends. If you'd like to see these mugs, all of our video podcasts are now available on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. For more content, follow at Blur Sports on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can also follow us individually at Blursed Blake, at Blursed Hayden, and at @A_Kais. If you're interested in chatting with us directly, join our new Discord community by typing discord.io/blurredsports into your browser. As always, a huge shout out to our music man, Oh No, for keeping the vibe right and laying down straight slappers every week. You can find his information in the show notes. Thanks again so much for listening, and see you next week.